this video, I'm going to talk about a very important topic called archives. And then I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what does this WP get archives function do. So to understand the function, we first need to understand what archives are. Archives literally mean collection of historical items. Okay, so archives in WordPress context are, you can call it like a list of items retrieved based upon certain criteria. An archive itself is the page that lists those items. Example, a set of blog posts that belong to certain categories. If you want to list them, when you click on the view button for those categories, for example, I'll just show that to you. So if you go to your backend and if you go to post categories, and for example, these are my categories, let's say games. Okay, as you can see, there are two posts inside of this category. If you click on view, it's going to take you to a page which is games for that particular category. Okay, so when you click on this particular category, when on view, it takes you to an archive page. Okay, and it's going to display all the posts that belong to that particular category. Okay, so if you notice, this post is belonging to games, and even this one, and that's why those two posts were displayed. So whenever you go ahead and view on them, on the categories, or for example for tags, even for tags, if you click on it, uh, this takes you to the archive page. Okay, so this will all be clear in a moment, but just to give you a basic idea. Okay, so a great article can get lost in your archives because as in when you start building your site with, and there are a lot of blogging that starts to happen on your site, like hundreds and thousands of them. A great article can definitely get lost into the archives, which means that it can get lost into a large number of posts that you have. So searching it may be a little difficult. So placing a search bar and an archive widget in your sidebar can make it easier for the visitors to search through older content. For example, they can go into an archive where it lists the post with their month or dates, etc. Right? You can also create dedicated archive pages because not every WordPress theme comes with an archive pages template, and those that do are not always structured in a way that they want what you want. Okay, so WordPress doesn't provide you with an archive page by default. If you go to template hierarchy for WordPress, you can see that any archive page, for example the page that we just clicked on when we went on to category, and when we clicked on view, it took us to that archive page. So any archive page, if whenever the user goes on the archive page, depending on what archive page is. So for example, this was the category archive page. You can see this is category archive page. Then you had the uh, also have tags archive page. So if you click on view, takes you tag archive page. So depending on which archive page the user clicks on, so let's say it's a category archive page. So in case if you've already created a custom template for that, like category.php, it's going to go ahead and use that template to display the information about those posts that belong to that category. However, if you don't have that, then it will go and search for archive.php. By default, what in your theme you may not have the archive.php page because not all themes do, but if you do have the archive.php, then the moment you click on that particular archive page, let's say tag or category, then it's going to go ahead and select this page if it's available. And again, if it is not available, then by default it's going to go on to index.php. Currently into my theme, I do not have an archive.php page. That is why whenever you click on an archive page, let's say over here, it's taking you to index.php, and I can show that to you that it is true. I'll just go on to my index.php and I'll just type index over here so it is clear, and that's what is happening. So let's say I click on to one of my categories and it takes me to the archive page for that. Sorry, I think something is missing. Mm. Alright, so this is my index.php, and I have mentioned index over here just to show that it's an index page. So let's say this is my category, category, and I click on view. It takes me to the category page, and you can see, sure enough, it is taking you to the index.php page. So it is using the index.php page to display the contents of all the posts and whatever is going on over here. So we are running a loop to display the post, so that's why it's displaying the post that belong to that category using the index.php, because we don't have archive.php. That's why the fallback is index.php. Okay. Similarly for tags as well, we click on tags and view it. Again, takes us to index.php page, that is for the archive. So for displaying the archive, it is using the index.php. Okay, now let's go ahead and create an archive.php page. So I'm going to go ahead and go onto my theme and create a page called archive.php. So even if you go to codex, creating an archive index, it tells you that to set up a separate archive index, you'll need to create it as a page and assign it as a special template. So you can also assign it as a template, but we'll get to that. Let's just create an archive.php page. Okay, so and just write over here archive. Okay, and let's see what happens. So the moment you create the archive.php page, by default, according to the template hierarchy, the moment a user goes on an archive page, let's say a category archive or a tag archive or a custom post type archive, then it will automatically select the archive.php because you have that in your theme. So I'm going to go ahead and click onto one of these, say tags archive page, and you can see, sure enough, it takes us to the archive page. If we didn't have that archive.php, then by default it will select the index.php as per the page hierarchy. Okay, great. So let's write some of the codes inside of that. So I've written all of this code inside of my archive.php, just getting the header file using getHeader function, getting the footer file using getFooter function, and I'm using the my custom function to get the sidebar and all of that. Okay, here I'm calling the corner primary class. This is my custom function to display all the classes based on what page am I on, and this is the function to display the archive title, because it's important that you should know that it's an archive page that you've land onto. So there should be something to distinguish, there should be some code to distinguish that it is an archive page that the user landed onto. Okay, so archive title is going to give us the title of the archive. So in our case, let's say if it was category, then it is going to display as category for the title. And then, so for example, let's say games. Okay, so the title will be games. For the archive title function, this will reflect the games over here inside of the h1 tag, and the archive description function is going to display the description, which is this. Okay, all right, now next we are running a loop, and using this loop I'm using get template part function inside of this loop which is going to include the content file template, which is inside of the template parts directory. So inside of the template parts directory, it's going to go and find get post format. This function basically is going to check which format the user has selected for that particular post, for each post, this format basically, and whatever format the user selected is going to add that as a slug over here and look for the file with that name. So for example, if we selected gallery, then it look for content gallery. We selected page, then look for content page. If you selected video, then it'll look for the content video page. If it's not selected anything, then it'll just return the content.php, and that is basically to display the title and the content of the post. That is out of the scope of this particular tutorial, but just as to you know that that's what's going on over here. And then you have the corner of pagination to get the pagination of the page. So every other thing is just not so relevant to this this particular tutorial, but just to let you know that's what's going on over here. All right, so let's go ahead and test. So now if you go ahead and go into any category, view the page, you can see that sure enough we have the category games. And that is your archive title, page title, category games, page title. So you're getting the title of the archive is category games, game title, and then you have the description. This is games category. So if you go on to games, you can see that this is the game category. That is the description of that particular archive. Okay, and then you have the content of the page that's being displayed over there. So you have the content. You can also just all right, so I think that's about it. And then you can also use this as a template. So if you go on to codex, this says that start off with a simple template called archive.php stored in your themes directory. The WordPress default theme includes such a template and makes it a good starting point. Okay, so just name this as template name as archive. So if I go ahead and name this as archives as template name, then WordPress will treat this as a template as well. And then you can go ahead and define any page with this template. You can set any page with this template. So let's say I go onto any page, for example this page, we edit this page. The moment, a second, there's something missing. One moment. So if you go to pages and you click on edit, you will see a template option over here, and you can select archive, and then if you update it, and then if you view the page, then the archive template will be used to display the content of this page. Okay, and this archive basically is coming from, because we have named it as archive over here as template name. Okay, now there are other functions also that we can use. For example, a wp get archive. So if you want to display the list of links for different months, different dates, based on the dates and months, etc., we can do that using wp get archive function. So we can pass the parameter as just a single string, or we can pass an array of arguments as well. So let's do that into our archive.php. Just below where we are calling get template part to display the content for the post, below this we can call the function wp get archive. Okay, and we're just gonna go ahead and use a single value first. And a single value, we can type it as type, and we can select anything. If you want to display the archive spaces daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, we can select any of these options. So let's go with monthly first. So I'm going to say type is equal to monthly. Okay, perfect. So let's go back and check, refresh the page. And if you now go on to one of the categories and view it, it'll take me to archive page. And if you scroll down, you can see, sure enough, we have the um, archives displayed monthly. And if you click on that, it'll show me all the November post. And this will show me the October post. And as you can see, this title is coming from the archive title. So this is the monthly archive uh, title. Okay. And because we are calling it within the loop, that's why this is displaying multiple times. So we shouldn't do that. We can just call it below this. Okay, it needs to be in PHP tag. Let's get rid of the extra tab. Now it's going to display only once. Okay. Now we can change it. We can say daily, we can say weekly, we can say yearly. So let's say daily. You can see we have the list of daily posts. If we click on that, we'll get the post that were made on that day. Okay. So there are different sort of things that you can play around. The examples mentioned over here. Don't want to make this video too long. This was basically for archive and to explain the WP get archive function, which I think I have explained that to you, and I hope it helps. If you have any questions, you can leave the comment. If you do like the video, if you did like it, then please share and subscribe to my channel. Alright, then I'll see you. Bye-bye.